you know, we still need the stories, whether we read modern novels or not. It's like, we need that connection, whether it's with our elders or with our kids. We pass these stories on as something precious. For me personally, it's probably just the unknown. I've always been drawn more to the unknown and whatever the beyond of normal life. So I would actually go out and look for these. We would go to haunted houses. We would go to haunted areas of the cities, see what was going on. Yeah. Now, whatever that comes from, I don't know, but it kept life interesting.
It was almost like an escape.
Definitely an escape. Family life was not a happy life, so that was an escape. Oh, definitely.
Hey, welcome to the Floaties for Krakens podcast. I am your host, Camille Maria Costa, and it is a brilliant day to be monstrous. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the season 2, episode 7 of Floaties for Krakens. Yay, we're here. It is spring. Happy spring. The sun is out to play for longer hours every single day, and I just can't be more thrilled. I hope the warmth and brightness of the light is making you all feel good and happy and lovely in every single way. Make sure you're eating. I hope you all are eating. Are you drinking water? Are you resting? Are you taking naps? Please, everybody, I can't stress enough. You have to take care of yourselves, cuttlefish. It's very important. You're very important, monstrously important. So make sure you're taking care of yourself in all of the monstrous ways possible. But welcome. Hi. We are back in cryptid territory today for an incredible episode by a beautifully incredible person. I may be biased, but this individual is just lovely in every single sense of the word. So brilliant, especially for their age, and just such a bright young scholar and artist. And I'm so excited for the world to see what they have to offer, but more importantly, what you all, that you all can see this person shine, talking about the things that they love to talk about. So let me introduce to you Tal, or Natalia Lucero. So in Tal's own words, hello, me llamo Natalia Lucero, and I've grown up in Albuquerque, New Mexico my entire life. I went to John Baker Elementary, Hoover Middle School, and now I go to Amy Beale High School. And my school funds dual credit college classes, so I'm also taking a drawing CNM class, which means also taking college courses in art, which is freaking incredible. I have always been into art, such as origami, painting, drawing, coloring. They're also incredibly talented at it, might I add, and even sometimes working with clay. I have also had theater and choir experiences. They're also incredible in this, and have done both for about 5 years. I am actually, in fact, part of the Junior Thespian Society and have a card for it and everything. I was also in Girl Scouts when I was younger, since kindergarten up until I went to middle school. My birthday is on the 17th of September, and I am currently 16. I'm going to turn 17 this year. I hope everyone enjoys my presence on the podcast. And let me tell you, I know for a fact every single one of you is going to enjoy their presence on this podcast. Tal is such an amazing human being, and for those of you who are unaware, you'll learn in this episode, is soon to be my sister-in-law, but I already call them my sister anyway. My brother and Tal's older sister are getting married, so it's just lovely to have brand new family members and friends, and just to have garnered such a beautiful relationship with these individuals. And I'm just so lucky to have met Tal. Tal is so smart. I can't stress that enough, and so talented, and just is a brilliant storyteller, and I see nothing but beautiful things in their future. And I'm just so excited that we could have, geeked out about cool cryptid stuff in this specific episode. Talk about cute things, talk about creepy things, right? Talk about the state of the world. Um, so yeah, I'm just really excited. Um, well, ladies and cuttlefish, let me introduce to you good neighbor badges for Mothmen. Oh, and in case you're not familiar, you can win a good neighbor badge for being a good person in the Girl Scouts. Being a good neighbor. Okay, yeah, bye. Well, hi, Tal.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing good. A little tired, but we're gonna work through that.
I mean, been a busy time, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You're a busy high school kid.
Yep, taking college classes, specifically drawing. I mean, I love drawing, so it's worth it, I feel, for the credit.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited that you were on the show. You're
Mhm.
technically our very first teenager on the
Oh.
show. So
Oh
congratulations.
wow! Oh great! Yay! I
Yeah.
got a little special thing.
Yeah, you do. And I hope that other teens and other people see you, and I hope they come on the show too, because
Mhm.
I think you're gonna have a lot of wonderful things to say. So
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
super
I really
pumped.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, for people that don't know, Tal and I happen to be pretty close.
Yes.
Technically, I mean, I think, Tal is my sister, right? But if we want to be
Yeah.
formal about it, Tal will officially be my sister in about 2 years.
Yes.
Do you want to explain why, Tal?
Yeah. So basically, Camille's brother, Christopher, he's been on the show before. He's my brother-in-law, and I'm basically I just call him my brother at this point
Oh.
because my sister and him seem very set on getting married. So I don't think there's any way to reverse that, even if
I
I
think,
wanted to. No, I'm
yeah.
kidding. But yeah, so that's basically where we're at. So yeah, I'd say that we're considered sisters in that sense, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. No, 100%. And I'm so
Hmm.
excited. Shout out to Chris, shout out to Miranda.
Yes.
It's exciting to have new family members. So I think it's really, really great. And I'm so
Hmm.
excited to have you on the show. It's gonna
Yeah,
be so
I'm
much
really
fun.
excited.
Well, so yeah, for people that may not know you, tell us a little bit about you. What do you do? Who
Yeah,
are you?
so I'm a very artsy kind of person. I've grown up doing art and, drawing, origami, kind of just that sense of art, painting. But I also am a big theatrical person. I do a lot of theater. Um, and I was in choir for a few years as well, so I sing. Um, but yeah, like that's pretty much it for like the hobbies wise. I play video games too,
Yeah.
obviously, and then um, I kind of just like cryptids, as I said. Like that's kind of where my like horror. I've always loved horror, I guess, more or less. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where my like of cryptids came from, as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all kind of encapsulated in first your love of art,
Mm.
and like the creative side of things, right? And then it kind of
Yeah,
blossomed. That's so
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's so cool. And you're in high, as we were talking about a little bit, you're in high school taking college courses.
Mm.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah. I go to
Awesome.
Amy Beale High School.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Amy Beale High School. um there's that shout out. It's a charter school for, I'm assuming not a lot of people know about it. It's an old courthouse downtown. Um it's a big school. I mean, like it's big in the sense that it's very tall. Like I mean, it was a courthouse,
Yeah.
so it's 3 stories. Very old.
Yeah.
Definitely the basement's a little freaky. I've been there. It's kind of crazy. Uh
Oh man.
yeah, but yeah, like, and then I'm taking C&M college, a C&M college course right now,
Wow.
drawing. So we're seeing where that is gonna go,
Yeah,
basically.
that's so exciting. I mean,
Mm.
I'm sure many me, even adults, hate this question of like, what do you want to do with your life? Because I know that's a big question. But like, if you
Yeah.
had, um, in your mind, what is the perfect profession that you would have one day?
Um, Probably like selling art. I would love to make art, whether it be origami, paintings, drawings. Like I would love to sell art in the future
Yeah,
and make profit off of that because it's something I like doing.
yeah.
And or even acting. I would love to do something related to acting. I know the acting business is kind of iffy because of Hollywood
Sure,
and stuff.
sure.
But like if I had to a choice, I would probably want to go that direction.
Yeah, no, I mean, you make good points, of course. I think like any public profession, it can be a little daunting. It can be a little scary. There's mean people everywhere. But
Yeah.
you know what, Tal? I feel like if you wanted to really, I don't know, I always am a firm believer that you should just be the pilot of your own artistic career. And if you make
Mhm.
your own art, like just do it. You can be in control of
Yeah.
stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I think I relate art to my emotions a lot, and like I kind of internalize a lot of stuff in my art because it helps me connect more to like myself,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of times you don't feel connected to yourself, and it's like you kind of have to have a coping mechanism to deal with that. And
Yeah.
I think art is a big like virtue, or like I guess vice I use
Hmm.
to cope and to like deal with things and to put like my ideas out on paper, because it's like it's
Yeah.
hard to keep all your ideas in your head when you have all sorts of other stuff going on.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful tool to kind of express yourself, obviously, but like
Mhm.
discover yourself. And
Yeah, exactly.
and I think it's lovely that you have that. I think you said it
Mhm.
perfectly, your vice. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. Okay, so you kind of mentioned a little bit your gateway to video games and creativity and stuff was your love for art,
Mhm.
but you also mentioned you like spooky stuff too. So can you kind
Yes,
of
yes.
bring us into that world and how you
Yeah.
found it?
So honestly, I'm probably gonna blame my dad for this one. He was very big on like letting me basically watch whatever I wanted as a kid. So
Yeah.
from just even when I was like 5, I watched really big horror movies like Friday the 13th and Saw, and so pretty dark stuff. But
Yeah.
I think in a way it really shaped me as a person, because I think like without that experience, I wouldn't have liked horror as much,
Mm,
because because even then like I started also like with Goosebumps and like some more little tame
yeah.
things, but even then like I always just like horror. And like a big one for me was Five Nights at Freddy's, the video game
Mhm.
series. That was a
Yep.
big thing that kind of led me into horror as well. But yeah, it was just like my love of horror, and like I loved it as a kid. Like I wasn't terrified of it like most kids were,
Yeah.
so I was a little weird
That's
basically.
okay. That's
But
okay. I don't
yeah,
think so.
so that's kind of where that comes from, and that's where my, I guess, like gateway was into
Yeah.
like the horror world and the spooky world.
I love that. I love that it was an inherent connection with your father.
Mhm.
And I think it's so funny how, man, I mean, parents don't realize, I think, how impressionable
Yeah.
um what they provide for us or the entertainment they watch and how
Hmm.
cool we think it is like as kids. It's like,
Hmm.
ooh, like this is cool. I think I'm gonna like this for the rest of my
Yeah.
life. And
Yeah.
oh man, I really need to take the time. I've seen playthroughs of Five Nights at Freddy's,
Oh yes.
but I don't know if I have the courage. Fun fact, Tal, I don't know if Chris has ever told you this. Growing up, I had a massive fear of Chucky from Chuck E.
Oh
Cheese.
my gosh. Yeah, I think you told
Massive.
me about that a little
Tal,
bit.
like disturbingly bad. And nobody believes me. Okay, I think my mom still thinks that I'm lying. But one time, we went to Chuck E. Cheese for some reason or another, and I
Yeah.
distinctly remember sobbing because I saw him. And he
Hmm.
was running after me, like trying to be nice, like, no, I'm not scary. And then he was banging on the table I was hiding underneath, saying, like, get out, come on out.
Oh
And
my
it's,
god.
I honestly think it was very
He
formative.
traumatized, yeah, he traumatized you. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I loved Chuck E. Cheese as a kid. Even when I liked Five Nights at Freddy's, I don't think I was scared of it that much, but
I think you're brave.
I don't know. Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's in itself though is a very dark game once you get into the lore of
Yes.
it. Like at the front,
Yes.
just at the frontal view, you're like, oh, it's living animatronics to try to kill you. Okay, but then like you get into like the deep stuff, and that's like, oh, that's a lot more than just
Yeah.
this. So,
Have you
mm.
seen the film, the recent one?
Yes, I saw the recent film. I thought it was all right.
Okay.
It was different for sure. They
Yeah.
changed up the lore for the
Oh, okay.
movie, understandably, because you wouldn't want to watch like a movie where you already know that, like all the fans already know the lore. They wanted to kind of change it
Sure.
up, so I get that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I thought it was a decent movie. Like, it wasn't my absolute favorite, but it was still. I
Yeah.
think it was still good.
That's okay. That
Mm,
happens, right?
yeah.
It's fine. I think they're exploring, like you said, they're exploring the lore. They're exploring where they can go with it,
Mhm.
which is kind of fun. I feel like they're in a very good place right now where they can keep exploring. Because I doubt that'll
Yeah.
be the last one.
Yeah.
Um,
No, because
I,
Scott Coffin, he's still working on it. I think he's gonna work on it till he dies, honestly. I don't think he's gonna
great.
just like give up
That sounds
because
great.
the fan base is just so big. It's like there's like nothing to really like combat that, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's such a fascinating story. I think it's brilliant. I really
Mhm.
do. Other than Five Nights at Freddy's, are there any other pieces of horror that really stick out to you?
Um I'd say personally I've always loved Friday the 13th. I love Jason. I
Yeah.
love the killer. Um Scream. I love Scream. Scream is a big
Wow.
one for me.
Yeah.
But I've always just liked like really just horror in general. Like I like specifically, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Little Nightmares.
Love
Um Little
Little
Nightmares is
Nightmares.
so fun, and like even the second one it was so fun. It's such a good
Beautiful.
it is. It really it like and it's a lot deeper than just like, oh, this is a story. Like you can interpret the story however you want to, and like I think in that sense like you can interpret stories to compare it to like your own life,
Yeah,
basically.
100%. I think you bring up
Mhm.
a good point, and I think video games are a beautiful medium for that. Like that you can, because you're controlling it. It's
Yeah.
one of those few things that you can actually control.
Mhm.
And sure, there's jump scares and parts of the story you don't know yet, but I don't know. It
Yeah.
kind of gives you that courage to
Exactly.
put
Yeah.
yourself in the front seat, and
Mhm.
oh my gosh, Little Nightmares is brilliant, and I think I'm just
Yes.
a sucker for any character in a yellow, like, trench coat, like a raincoat.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
sucker. Coraline, right? Like, I
Coraline. Yeah.
love
Mhm.
I love a character that character is gonna go off and be spooky, deal with
Yes,
spooky stuff
exactly.
if they
Like
have
I
a
love
yellow raincoat.
yeah, I love that concept as well.
Ugh,
And then I
heck
also
yeah.
was very into like uh Ghost Adventures. That's what it was. Me and my dad would watch
Ghost
that a lot.
Adventures.
So me
Oh
and
my
my
gosh.
sister Miranda, she we watch this channel Shane and Ryan. They do like ghost investigations.
From
We
BuzzFeed originally, right? Weren't
yes,
they?
they were from BuzzFeed, and then they made their own channel because BuzzFeed is a little it's BuzzFeed.
Interesting.
Uh, so, but yeah, so I'm big on like also paranormal investigations. I think that that's a very
Yeah.
interesting field of like work because people really
Yes.
do take that so seriously, and I find that
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I know you and Miranda and your family in general, very spiritual
mm,
and like have that sense, of like I don't know, the other world, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful. I think that's
Yeah, because it's like
really
I feel
cool.
like once you embrace the fact that death is kind of inevitable, and you're like, if you are afraid of it, you're going to live your whole life in fear because you're just going to
Yeah.
be worrying like, oh, at one point this is going to end, so what's the point?
Yeah.
But like you have to also really think like of the afterlife and like where that can go, and like we none of us know that obviously because we're still in the like ethereal realm basically,
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
look at it that way. Like we're still in a physical world, so it's more of like thinking of what will happen after, and like having
Yeah.
faith that the decisions you make in life should just be like very important, to you. And
Absolutely.
so you like I just don't understand how people can focus so much on death sometimes,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's a good thing. I feel like it's more of a good thing than a bad thing.
Well, see, I think that's really brave of you and very mature of you,
Hmm.
because you're right. Death, depending on who's dealing with it or what they've dealt with in the past, can be a very, very terrifying thing.
Hmm.
And I think it's really cool that you're putting on that lens so young, to kind of be open to, like, okay, what does that really mean though? Like, what does it mean to be afraid
Yeah.
of death? And in turn, really loving life and,
Hmm.
being excited about the new things in front of you. I think a lot of people can learn from that idea, you know?
Hmm. And staying in the present, that's like a big thing, is trying to stay in the present. Even I struggle with that sometimes. So it's just like,
Sure.
it's a life thing. It's like you have to learn how to cope with the things that you're given in life, with
Yeah.
instead of combating them, because if you combat them, like, you
You don't
kind of
get
just put
very far.
yourself, yeah, you don't get very far.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That is a great point. And you're
Mhm.
right. It is hard to stay present, especially this world is really hard, and the world is going through a lot right now. It can
Mhm.
feel very complicated.
Oh
Um
yes, yeah.
very complicated. But like
Yeah.
you, I think getting lost in art and escapism and having fun with those concepts, can be really transformative
It
for
really can,
you
yeah.
and your mental health.
Because you have to always have something to fall back on, whether, even if you can't trust yourself necessarily,
Yeah.
you have to be able to trust something. And I feel like art is a big thing for me that I can trust, because it's not like art is going to judge you.
Right.
People can judge you, but art can't, you know?
No. No.
So,
That's such a good, beautiful way of, we should put that on t-shirt.
yeah.
Because it's true. You're right.
Yeah.
And you exist safely there.
Mhm.
And I don't know. That means a lot for people. Yeah. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that concept. Definitely.
Yeah. So that's
Um,
kind of how I see things.
and I think that's great. And I hope that you keep seeing things that way, because
Mhm.
that's rare. It's rare to see things that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So, okay. So you've had a lot of experience, I think, with the spooky world
Oh,
and
yes.
learning what franchises you like or what storylines you like. So, in your own words, Tal, what do you believe is a monster?
So, that's a very big question, I
Yes, it
feel, to
is.
cover. Um, I think it can really depend on how the world also kind of views monsters, because
Yeah.
it I feel like people have always just associated monsters with like killers like Jason, and
Mm.
killers like Ghostface and things like that. But like, when it really comes back to it, like, every monster, quote unquote, like, has a reasoning behind why it even exists in the first place.
Mm.
And I think that in a lot of ways, we can, as humans, relate to monsters, even if we're not like killing people, obviously, but more or
Right.
less like just the reasoning behind it, and more of like, how they are as a person, how they came to be, like, um you can kind of relate to like that feeling of being alienated from everyone else, because I feel like
Mm.
monsters are always like, oh, this is a separate thing from humans. But like, think about it honestly, like, as humans, we do really bad things sometimes. And like, if you really think about it, sometimes humans are the monsters
Yeah.
compared to like actual monsters that they consider monsters. Like, some
Yeah.
people think like, bears, for example, are savage beasts that will kill you. But it's like, think about it, humans can do that too.
Right. Yeah,
So it's really
absolutely.
that, like, the difference. It's a big difference in like
Mm.
kind of thinking of what a monster is compared to like what a bad person is. I guess
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to like explain, but
No, I think you explained it well. I think you're right. I think it's interesting how to find I hope I'm saying this right, but like to find the definition of a monster, often you have to look within yourself.
Mhm.
I think you have, unfortunately, sometimes for the worse, right? You have those words. You know what a
Yes.
monster looks like because you felt monstrous before.
Mhm.
Monstrous in a sense of being maybe, um, mean to someone,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
right, or mean to yourself, or going through it
Mhm.
like that can
Mhm.
feel very, very monstrous. But I think
Yeah.
you also mentioned, right, feeling alone or feeling ostracized or
Hmm.
feeling bullied, or feeling weird or
Yes.
strange. You can also feel very monstrous that way too as a
Yes.
human.
And I've really seen the worst in some people,
Yeah.
and I've also seen the worst in myself. And
Yeah.
I think once you see that kind of um side of people and the side of humanity, you really take into consideration, like, okay, how do I better myself so I'm not like that?
Yeah.
And I think in that sense, that's more of like people can be monsters, but every monster ultimately has their own inner things going on. So
Mm,
like you also have to take into consideration what someone is going through.
yeah.
Um Even if like someone is just a bad person and just like you can't really see past that, like you have to just at least try.
Sure. No, and I think again that's also a very mature thought, right? Of that it's still hard for adults to fully encompass. I think I don't know, this idea of self-awareness. I'm a firm believer that like you can understand why people do the things that they do. There
Hmm.
could be reasonings. They could be having like say, I don't know, somebody littered, right? If we really think
Yeah.
about it, somebody littered.
Yeah.
And then you have this mysterious superpower to see how their day went and maybe they just got fired from their job and they're
Yeah.
having a really rough day and they're like, screw it, I'm littering, right? This is a
Yeah.
very basic idea.
Hmm. Yeah.
You can understand why a person does what they do, but it
Yeah.
also still doesn't make it okay,
Yes, like
right?
it when someone goes through something, they either have the choice to acknowledge it and grow from it,
Yeah.
or acknowledge it and sit with it
Yeah.
and kind of just be in their head from whatever happened. And I've experienced a lot, specifically with feeling alienated, like um some of my family, kind of just shut me out. And
Yeah.
I think that when you experience something like that, it kind of makes you realize, like, okay, well, fine, if someone isn't going to care enough about me to put the effort into me, then I shouldn't really worry about them in the first
Mm,
place, because it's like you should just always value like the good things that you do have compared to the negative. And I feel like I struggle doing that a lot. I do look at a lot of the negative sometimes, and I have to remind
sure.
myself, like, despite what I've gone through, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So I need to like cherish that and value that. And I feel like some people, when they go through things, they kind of just give up. And that's okay. It's okay to give up sometimes, but you should always try to at least crawl back up from the hole that you fell in.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
I mean, first of all, I'm so sorry that there are people out there that have chosen to keep you out. I think that's really stupid on their part. I think that's very weak on their part, because you're
yeah,
wonderful.
I
But I
appreciate
want you to
that.
know, yeah, I, I just always want you to know you have a safe place with me and our
Hmm.
family. Always,
Yeah,
you are our family,
yeah.
and I want you to know that, like, and I think you know this already. Another person, their opinion means nothing.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
doesn't define your self worth or who you are, how wonderful you are.
Hmm.
It should never. I know it's hard.
To think that, yeah,
Yeah, in the
sometimes,
moment,
but
especially. Yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah.
it's more of like, I really believe in the family that you choose is better
Hmm.
in some cases. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I love my sister, like
Yes.
Miranda. Like, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
but like when Chris, came into our life and stuff, that's like a big chosen family kind of thing, I felt.
Yeah.
Because even though we aren't like directly related, I feel like that doesn't mean anything. What matters most is the connection that you have with those people.
Oh,
Like, even my
100%.
friends, like, I think my friends are really the reason that I'm still like here and like still thriving as much as I am, because
Yeah.
you value friends and family as your closest, I feel.
Of
Even if you
course.
don't um trust your own blood, basically, is what I'm
Mhm.
trying to say.
Yeah, and I think you make a beautiful point. I think that's I don't know, you actively choose these people every day.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know. I think it's pretty brave and it's pretty strong to be like, yeah, I choose you to be my best friend
Mhm.
every day and talk to you and be with you. There's no obligation, there's no blood obligation. I just like
Yeah.
you enough to hang out with you and
To
talk to
hang
you
out
every
with you.
day.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I think I hope monsters can feel that way too.
Yeah,
Of like,
yeah.
no, it's okay. There's still
Some
like a
people accept
space.
monsters, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where the whole idea of cryptids comes in,
Yeah.
honestly, because cryptids are widely accepted around globally. So
Well, now that you mention it, what is a cryptid, Tal?
So I think like a cryptid in my mind is like a story that is told and like passed down through generations or at least mentioned throughout history, and even now, like even present tense, about creatures or different legends, but there's no like direct scientific proof for
Mm.
most of them, like
Yeah.
and it's usually just based off of claims, if anything. So
Mm.
and I'm a big scientific person. I'm very logical when it comes to like the creation of the earth and evolution and things like that.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
like when it comes to cryptids, I think I kind of have like a soft spot in my heart because I think like in a lot of cases there's so many claims of sightings and there's so many different evidences that we have found despite science not typically acknowledging it as like a part of its own thing.
Right.
But I also think that sometimes science can be a little sophisticated. And so sometimes they don't like looking into things like this because, like, Bigfoot is a big example.
Yeah.
Science has not acknowledged that as a legitimate thing. UFOs, if we're talking on about that,
Yeah.
especially here in New Mexico. I mean, we have a
Yeah.
big culture of UFOs,
Right.
and science doesn't really acknowledge it. And I think like in that sense some people theorize like, oh, it's a part of the government then because they're trying
Sure.
to hide stuff. And yeah, and I think that's a little bit of an extreme thought, but I still think like I still believe like in some cases I think that there is truth to multiple people coming together and be like, this is something that possibly happened. We've
As
all
a
seen this
collective.
as a collective thing. Like, how
Right.
do you not believe that?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
especially
Well
with all the
said.
crazy stuff that happens with Roswell and everything. We're going into that a little bit. They tried to cover that up like 100%.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
crazy. It's really crazy to think like, wow, maybe the government does have some stuff they want to hide. You know, we haven't discovered a lot in our world. I mean, think of like the ocean. We've only explored like what, not even 5% of it. Who knows what's under there? Like, who knows what's in space fully? Like, there's so much
Right.
stuff that could be out there and that we don't know.
I mean, especially after the government, when COVID was happening, like, I mean, I know it's still happening, but like
Mhm.
the lockdowns and everything.
The lockdowns, yeah.
And then the government was like, let's divert this attention. By the way, UFOs are real. Okay, thanks, bye. And then just
It's
walked
like, wait,
away.
it's like, wait, hold on, hold on. Like,
We're like,
wait.
wait a second. Hold on, hold the phone.
I
So
think
you're
they
telling
just,
us.
yeah, they just kind of threw everything down. They were like, yeah, this is happening now. And everyone was like, okay. Like, I don't know.
So right, which is like, it just makes you think. It makes like, I don't know, it's
Mhm.
exciting kind of
It's
to
interesting. It's very
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just find it really hard to believe, still on the cryptid, concept
Mhm.
too. I don't know that we're the only advanced species on this planet, in the
Yeah.
universe. I don't
I
know.
think
Like,
I think that there is more advanced species than us, and we don't know about them because they're advanced. They're far beyond our realm, probably, I'm sure. And I feel there is plenty of spiritual beings and plenty of like I also believe like nature, specifically Mother Nature, is a very big thing that is alive. Like
yes,
if you think about it, we're all connected as humans. We're connected to the earth,
of
literally,
course,
physically and mentally. Because,
yes,
I mean, once we die, we just go back into the earth. It's not like we're just gone. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's very interesting to think that some people can believe something like that and believe like, oh, we're all connected because that's a big part of science too. But then not believe in like things that could be higher than us, things that could be more advanced than us, and we just not know it because
Right.
again they're above us. We're not we I don't think we're allowed to see them yet until like we cross that certain realm, you know, like because we're just not
Exactly.
as advanced as them.
You know, I heard this crazy theory once, and
Mhm.
it's always been in my mind. Like if we're thinking about UFOs, for example,
Yes.
somebody made a claim that like what if like these
Mhm.
UFOs that we see or experiences that we have with those unidentified objects, what if they are our generation from like Xeons in the future coming back
Yeah.
to like they can time travel now and they can check and it's like us, but
Yeah.
like, you know, not
From the
us.
future. Yeah, like that's a very big I mean, it's crazy to think about because like there's literally people that have frozen themselves before they die so they can see into the future. Who knows if that's even going to work,
We don't
depending on
know.
the technology that we have. So and we don't
Yeah.
know, like if we're talking about how big the universe is, it's pretty much infinite, and I feel like we just don't have enough technology to see what is actually out there because who knows what's in different galaxies, who knows what's in different universes, planets, whatever. Like we've only recently started to find out that there's life remotely on Mars, only recently, and it's been like who knows how
A
long,
long time.
millions of years.
Long, 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 long
Yeah,
time.
so it's like it's gonna take a long time, probably past our lifetime, to
I think
see
so.
that kind of thing,
I mean,
see
and
those kinds of things. So yeah,
yeah, like I think COVID proved like remember when we were in lockdown and like how literally the earth fixed itself? Like it
it
started
did.
to,
It
you
really
know,
did. The
everything
coral
about
reefs
the
started
reefs,
coming
the
back.
atmosphere.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, the earth she can do her thing. She could not care less. She's
yeah.
like, you guys die, all right. I'm going to keep
No, and yeah,
going.
we think about it like some people theorize like, oh, we have a pandemic every 100 years and it's established by the government. I don't believe that.
Me
I
neither.
believe that Mother Nature, Mother Earth, basically, is really just like it's reacting to what we do to it. Because we as humans have damaged the earth
Yeah.
a lot with pollution, with climate change, with global warming, with the rising sea levels, all of it. Um, and I think that the earth, because it is alive, it is in itself alive, is a also kind of creature that's has its own needs, and like when it sees like, oh, humans are destroying me, I need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's kind of I think where the pandemic even came from in the first place, because we have stuff like this like every 100 years. I think literally the earth is like, no, I don't want
Yeah.
this, like I don't want so much people to be hurting me, so I'm gonna get rid of a good amount of them, and that's just how it is. It's survival of the fittest. Like it's just the food chain, and if we think about it, earth is on top of the food chain compared to us, even if we
Oh
damage
yeah.
it more than it does to us,
Yeah,
really.
we're not worthy. We're not worthy at
Yeah,
all.
we really are not.
And I
It's really
understand
just
that.
kind of sad, honestly, but
Yeah. But anything we can do to,
mhm.
help the earth, I'm a firm believer
Yeah.
in that too.
Yeah,
So,
I do. We us as a family, we do all we can to help prevent pollution and things like that. Like we
yeah.
recycle and we reuse containers and jars as cups, and we
Yeah.
try to use less water and just things like that.
Yeah.
Simple conservation kind of things that I think everyone can do, but some people just don't sometimes don't care enough or realize
Yeah.
how much what they're doing affects the earth, and so
Yeah.
they'll just not do it.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, but
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
mhm.
And it I don't know, it all connects. It all connects. And I think, circling it around to your point, right? I think first of all, your definition of cryptid was really great. And I
Oh,
think,
thank you.
it stems from legends and transmission and telling each other about these
Mhm.
stories in these local
It's kind of
areas.
gossip almost.
Yeah. Oh,
A little bit.
period. Yeah,
Yeah.
cryptids are the chismosos and the chismosas of,
Yes.
right, like Monster World. Like they are your
Exactly.
tias and your tios gossiping about your life. Like that is a
Yes.
cryptid.
Exactly. It
And
really is.
yes, and I think the crazy thing about cryptids, right, is like they are also kind of this amalgamation, this like collage of environment like environmental catastrophes or like
Yes,
environmental
yes.
pieces. I don't know, like every cryptid kind of does have this
Place.
nature-esque
Yeah, yeah.
place. Don't you
And that
think?
goes, yeah, and I think that really does go into the cryptid I wanted to talk about, which
Which
is
is
like
who?
Mothman.
Yeah.
So we all love Mothman. I mean, I at least do. I don't really care what other people think. I'm like,
Bringing it back to
whatever.
the first point.
Yes.
But who's
Um,
Mothman?
so basically, Mothman is like a humanoid creature that has been seen in West Virginian folklore for a while now. It's been since disturbances and like sightings have been recorded since 1966. So
Yeah.
it's kind of still recent-ish. It's not like absolutely so far back into the past, but
Yeah.
it's still recent. Um and basically he kind of looks like just a tall like figure, whether it be humanoid or whatever else people consider that,
Yeah.
that has the head of a moth. Basically he has big red eyes and big wings and the little antennas that moths do. So
Yeah.
and he's fuzzy because moths are also fuzzy, so that's
Love a moth.
what I also, yeah. So
And he's like, I'm glad that you started describing like the way that he looks like.
mhm.
But he's very towering. He's very
Tall, very, very
tall.
tall. Yes.
And I mean, I feel like we can't not talk about how every single rendition of Mothman has like a 12 pack of abs.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's also true. A lot of people romanticize Mothman a lot.
Which we will be
Um
getting to in this interview. Uh
yeah.
but
That's an
he's
interesting thing, but he is a very big
he's a big
creature. If
man.
we're big, yeah. Whether, yeah, like even though he looks more humanoid, I feel like he's not very humanoid in that sense
Yeah.
because also his feet, they're like bird feet.
Yeah.
Some people have said they look like crow feet.
Yes.
Um,
Or the little feelers that moths have, which
mhm.
is like the
Exactly.
two.
Yes, the little weird. I don't even know what to describe, but
I don't
like
know what they're called either.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're like the
The
weird
little
like
feeties.
yeah, the little
Yeah.
feeties. Yeah, we'll just call them that.
That's
Honestly,
scientific. Okay.
that, yeah, that's scientific. Yeah, so it's really interesting. And
Yeah.
just the origin of Mothman is also very interesting.
So what
And
is that story? Yeah. Is there like a
so
pinnacle story?
yeah, so basically, some have been saying that like first of all, uh, he was seen at Point Pleasant in West Virginia,
Yeah.
by the World War II munition site. So TNT, they just call it TNT.
Okay.
Um, that was one of like the first sightings of him,
Yeah.
basically. However, the main one that people really, really like to talk about is the collapse of the Silver Bridge. So he said people have said that he was sighted nearly days before December 15th of 1967. Um on the same day, on November 15th, so the same day basically, but
Yeah.
1966, and um people have speculated that he is the reason behind the Silver Bridge because days later the Silver Bridge collapsed and a bunch of people died. And so
Mm.
it was really
Yeah.
interesting because it was more than one sighting too. It wasn't just like, oh, one person saw something in the air and whatever. It was a direct sighting that people had seen just
Yeah.
fly over the bridge, and people were like, that's weird, that looked like a bird, but it wasn't a bird. um, so it was very interesting because yeah, then there was the other section where people saw him by the TNT
Mm.
munition area, the World War II
Yeah.
site. Specifically, these people named Roger and Linda Scarberry,
Okay.
as well as Steve and Mary Marlette. They all told police that they had seen a black creature that had like red glowing eyes, standing at the side of the road where the TNT site was.
Yeah.
Um, and when they drove by, it flew at them and chased their car and was like screeching at them. And it was scary because they were like, what is that?" And
Yeah.
they said that the creature had, specifically these people said that the creature had white wings, which is interesting because that's a little different from
Yeah, the
some of
all
the
black.
other, the all black, yeah. And yeah, it flew after them and like tried to attack them. So in that case, they suggested he was more aggressive if that was Mothman. But then that sighting specifically was looked into by a wildlife biologist, Robert L. Smith,
Okay.
at West Virginia University. And he suggested to reporters that the descriptions and sightings all fit the sandhill crane. So it's a very big
Oh.
um, American crane, almost as tall as a man, with a 7 foot wingspan, featuring like circles of reddish eyes, basically. So in that case, I think the people that saw whatever the white winged thing was, must, it could have been a crane, but we also don't know because there's just been so many different sightings and so many
Yeah.
different claims of what he looks like, so many different descriptions. Like, it's very interesting. And who knows,
Oh
some people don't
man.
even know, like maybe there's more of them. If we're going into that, maybe there's different versions of Mothman that we don't know about. Like maybe it is a species in
Yeah.
itself.
And so,
So
Tao, do is there any patterns to like when people see Mothman? Like I know you said a bridge collapsed. Is that common? Do like other things happen?
yeah, so people have also theorized with, specifically if we're gonna go into like natural disasters, like tsunamis have been caused by Mothman. Like some people have
Mm.
claimed that they've seen Mothman before tsunamis or before hurricanes. The big claim though was that some people saw Mothman right before the 9/11 2001 terrorist attack.
I've heard that
Um
before.
and that is a big one because it's like that literally was a horrific thing that happened,
Right.
and it was a big like setback in American history kind of thing, where it's just like it really makes you realize like the humanity of people.
Yeah.
And so that's another big one that people claimed was
Interesting.
a thing. So it's mix of like natural disasters but also big like disasters that happen unnaturally,
Yeah.
like the collapse of the Silver Bridge. Scientists have claimed that it's more of like the weight capacity,
Mm.
um instead of, Mothman. But some also people are just like, yeah, it was Mothman. Like, so it's
Oh.
really interesting
So
to
he's
think
a
of it that way.
warning symbol almost.
Yes. But also some people see him as bad luck, so it's very like
Oh.
two-sided. Like some people see it as like, oh, he's a warning symbol, but then some people have also said like, no, he's evil and he's horrible, because like it really leaves people split between like, is he doing something good or is he causing this to happen to us on
Interesting.
purpose? So it's like more of like, some people even think like Mothman can see into the future and that he warns people that are similar to him because he's still humanoid. So I think that in some ways he's alive and can maybe think similar to us. Um,
Ah.
Even if he can't speak, but I also think this also relates to like, like when fish jump out of the water right before a tsunami is going to happen, or
Right, right.
birds fly overhead when
Or they look
something
up.
is had died, or when there's
Mm-hmm.
something bad going to happen. Like, exactly, like it really relates back to nature. So that's a big thing with Mothman, is that he is still an animal in
Yeah.
some way.
Interesting.
So yeah.
That's wild. That's so cool. I love that there's an air of mystery to this creature, right?
Yes.
Like I think
Yes.
that's what makes not only Mothman the perfect cryptid, probably the
Mhm.
most well-known, one of the most well-known,
One of the most well known,
but
100%. Yeah.
fascinating, right? Like just such
Hmm.
a fascinating creature. Okay, so obviously Mothman, like we just said, is very well known.
Hmm.
But before we get to the internet culture of it all, I'm
Oh,
curious
yeah.
too. Traditionally, right in West Virginia, there is this annual Mothman Festival, right? Like
Yes.
there's
Yes.
celebrations of this creature. Can we talk more
Uh-huh.
about this idea
Yeah.
of that celebration?
So that kind of came from what had happened with the Silver Bridge. I think that's where it originally came from.
Yeah.
Not exactly, like not directly after, but it was pretty soon after. And once people started seeing more sightings, they were like, well, I mean, he probably is a warning sign rather than bad luck, even though some people still believe he's bad luck.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where the annual festival started to come in, and I looked into it a bit. It's literally, it's crazy. There's like food, there's music, there's dancing, there's
Yes.
merch you can buy, there's
Yes.
tons of stuff you can get. There's statues that people made of Mothman. There's and the big one that that festival has also um made was that they made the TNT site a little more popular because some people have claimed that that's where he lives
So people go.
ultimately. So people go there
A
because
legend
they're like,
trip.
oh, hey, I'm gonna go look at this because, oh, I heard that this cryptid lives here, or you know what I mean. And
Yes.
it's kind of funny because that's just a World War II munition site, and the people have kind of turned it into like, oh, this is Mothman, this is where Mothman lives. So it's kind of funny to think like they're just like, yeah, this is Mothman's home, or
Yeah.
things like that. So
Fascinating.
Mhm.
Oh, I love it. I don't know. I think it can be a two-sided coin. I think,
yes,
and I'm
100%.
curious to see your thoughts about that, right? Like there has been a lot of talk lately about the commodification of ghosts and horror and things, and it can be a really beautiful thing because it can help people's economy. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
that festival rakes in so much wonderful
Oh
money
yeah.
for people and for artists
Mhm.
there and for the community and for restaurants,
And
and
it
like
brings
I'm
people together. It brings people
brings people
together.
together. And I've also seen the adverse of it, right, where the commodification of something like that could also make it seem less believable, or like
Mhm.
like more silly.
More yeah, more like, oh, this is like just a profit thing. This is a cash grab kind of thing. And like I
Right.
feel I don't believe that personally
Me
because
neither.
I think like you kind of have to remember, like, even if people are making profit off of this and celebrating it and making it a little more like less realistic, I guess,
Yeah.
um you have to remember where it comes from, like
Yeah.
where that originated in the first place, and like how um that kind of even came to be, like without the sightings and without the big disasters that have happened, no
Yeah.
one would have suspected like, oh, Mothman even exists. Like why else would there be sightings in the first place if
Right.
he didn't, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I don't know. It's fun to tell these stories and to create community,
Mhm.
and almost like a fan club. It is a fan club
Yeah,
around
it
something
really
like that,
is, honestly.
right?
But it's kind of more like you really have to think of it like more as you have to think of it lightheartedly. I'm trying to think of like the word to phrase it like that, but more or
Yeah.
less, yeah, you have to kind of not look at it too seriously. Um,
Yeah.
but also like take into consideration where it does come from and where. So yeah. I
Yes.
really think that I would love to go to the
Me
festival at some
too.
point. That would be so fun. I would love to go.
I agree. I think it would be so fun. And not to mention, really close by, actually, is the Braxy, another cryptid, the Braxy
Ooh,
Museum,
yes, yes.
which would also be very fun.
That
But
would be
that's,
very
I
fun, yeah.
so maybe we can all just go one day. But
Yes,
that would
that would be
be,
so fun. I would love to do that. I'd also want to do something related to Roswell since I'm so
I
close here too.
know.
I want to go to that UFO festival that they hold
That's my
sometimes.
dad's dream. We should
Uh-huh.
go.
Hmm.
We should go.
We should.
Um,
That would be very fun.
yeah. Yes, and like speaking of, the enamoration and people feeling so excited by Mothman, let's talk about the internet fan club of, and
Oh.
you're gonna have to inform me. I think you know about internet way more than I do. I am
Mm,
not
yeah.
very much on the internet and haven't been for a long time, but
Um,
I am so please fill
yeah.
me in on how
So
Mothman is a daddy, because I want to know.
so I've seen so many things that have made me laugh and just made me like, okay, like people are going crazy. Some people just really, if we're gonna go into like the more recent terms, have simped over Mothman a lot.
Right.
Um and there's just been a lot of romanticization of Mothman.
Right.
Um and sexualization a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I find really interesting because it's just like if you actually think of like the root of where that comes from, like people, I mean, like people sexualize and romanticize everything in fandoms
100%.
in general. So
Yeah.
it just kind of is unavoidable. Like, but if you really think of it, like people like Mothman because of the fact that he is a warning symbol. So I think that's where that like romanticization, where the liking of it comes from, because people are like, oh, he's not a bad guy, even though everyone makes him to be a bad guy. So
Sure.
I think that's kind of where that like weird dynamic comes from.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
personally don't romanticize Mothman. That's just not my thing. I don't know. Some people are a bit
And you
crazy
know,
nowadays.
it's, people are into what they're into. Go off. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm fascinated by it. I think what I have been so taken aback by are the artist renditions of Mothman with this, like I
Yes.
said, 12-pack abs, the biggest
Yeah.
butt I've ever seen in my life. Like I've seen
Yeah.
videos online of people like
Hmm.
making sketches and skits about how Mothman is my boyfriend. I've seen buttons with Mothman is my boyfriend. And like
It's crazy. It's
it's
very
fascinating.
crazy.
And
Yeah.
I think you make a lovely point that inherently this cryptid instills a sense of safety for a lot of communities. And I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, Tao, I've seen a lot of lovely fan groups that are queer based that
Yes. Around
um
Mothman. Hmm.
yeah, that say, Mothman is a queer safe space and a
Yeah.
pinnacle of safe either infatuation or romance or just romanticization safely
Yeah.
in
I
general.
I I like that concept more than I do like people just being like, "Oh, he's hot" or whatever. Like I feel like that's
Yeah.
okay. But I like the that idea more because that idea is like more of like, oh, like he's actually like a safe space for people that feel alienated. And I feel like
Yeah.
in the queer community you feel very alienated from everyone else because I mean you're different, you're just automatically a part of a minority if you feel attraction towards someone you're not technically supposed to be attracted to,
Hmm.
at least in society's view, you know what I mean? And like I'm personally gender fluid, so and pansexual, so
Yeah.
um I have always had really a lot of trouble like deciphering where I fit in to everything, and I realized like, oh, I don't fit into anything. I'm just kind of all over the spectrum. So
Yeah.
it's, I think in that circumstance, I think Mothman kind of fits into that category a little bit
Hmm.
because he's not directly a human, he's not directly a creature, nor he's also not directly an insect. He's literally
Yeah.
like his own thing, and I think like that in itself is kind of very um there, what's the word, like
Almost,
relating
yes,
to
inspirational.
inspirational to like the queer community. So I love when people talk about that in the queer sense because I think that cryptids can very much relate to people that feel queer or people that are a part of minorities, like, you know, because
Yeah.
I am a native Mexican, and that's a part of a minority, even if I look, quote unquote, don't look like it. Some people say like, oh, you don't look like that. I don't,
Well,
you,
I don't know
that
what
in
they're supposed to
itself,
look like, so
yeah, that's
thanks
also,
everyone.
yeah, that's also kind of weird. I
Dumb.
don't even, yeah, but being a part of, also, you know, like I am biologically female, so I'm a part of a pretty large different groups of minorities, and so ultimately that puts me at more of like the view of everyone else, like I'm at the spotlight of everyone else, like,
Mm.
and I feel like in today's society there's that big thing of people trying to make you decide who you are,
Hmm.
but it's like if you don't really know where you fit in, like I feel like it's okay to just be like who you are without
Yeah.
having to fit into a specific category. And I think Mothman really does represent that a little bit because he also is misunderstood also in
Yeah,
that sense, because people are always like, "Oh, you're just mean and like you're causing everyone to die." And it's like that's not
maybe
if that
not.
was, yeah, maybe not. Like maybe that's not the case, because even though like 46 people died from the Silver Bridge, 9 were injured, I'm pretty sure, and there was like 30 or so cars that fell into the um water below.
Hmm.
I feel even with tragedies like that, and if we're going back to like the other tragedies like the 9/11 things, like we've learned a lot from those, and we haven't had a bridge collapsing since then, I don't think. And um we've been good about keeping terrorism not like under control a little bit, even though there is issues here and there. But
Trying, yeah.
um
Yeah.
we learn a lot from disasters, and I think like even if something was really horrible and horrific, I think you can still learn something from it
Yeah.
and kind of grow from it,
Yeah. I
instead
think
of
that's a good point.
bearing it on your shoulders like the whole time.
Yeah. And I think, I think it's important for you to take a note on that too, Tal, right? Like this
Mhm.
idea, I know you said like sometimes it feels as a queer person, as a queer body, that it can feel like spotlights on you all of the time and not a good one. And I think
Mhm.
you can take a note from Mothman's book and be like, I'm not a spotlight, I'm a lighthouse. And
Yeah,
I guide people. I'm strong and
exactly.
powerful, and I can literally beam through fog and storms and tsunamis and anything just
Mhm.
to guide people to a safer place, to shore,
Yeah, and I think that's where Mothman is coming from in that sense, because I feel like a lot of people are just like, "Oh, Mothman's evil and
Yeah.
horrible," and they kind of just default to that, because a lot of people also just believe cryptids in general are horrible.
Yeah.
And they're not, like, they're scary, like they're creepy, and like yeah, they are creepy, but like think about it, like are we any less creepy than,
Listen.
than I mean, trust me, animals probably look at us and we're like, what the heck is that thing, like what the,
Yeah, like,
what, like
ew.
ew, what the like, get away from me, they're weird, like, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah,
really it depends on perspective and how you view things, like,
I agree.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where that's coming from, I feel.
Are
The
there
internet's also just crazy though, so
Oh, yeah, love it, hate it, in between.
yeah.
It's But speaking of the internet and other mediums of pop culture, do you know if there's other versions of Mothman? Like, are there video games? Are
Yeah.
there?
So, specifically, let me see, because I
Yeah.
have it
Yeah.
somewhere here. So, there's specifically like this, I forgot. It was like this movie. I'm pretty sure it's like the Mothman prophecies.
That sounds
Um,
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, that's a that the entire Silver Bridge thing encouraged that movie to even be made. And there's a bunch of other movies that I can't name
That's
about
okay.
Mothman.
If you
Um,
think of a list, send it to me and I can put it
yes,
in the links
yes.
in the bio.
Um, and but specifically, like I said, the Mothman prophecies, that kind of paints Mothman as more of a bad guy than a good guy.
Sure.
Um, and in a lot of cases, yeah, I've seen video games, I've seen art, I've seen tons of things that have been based off of Mothman, or just directly they just took Mothman's story and put it into something.
Yeah.
um but I think also, like, specifically, a lot of the pop culture surrounding Mothman, like there's tons of different kinds. There's the Mothman that was described in early sightings, which is the one with white wings, and
Yeah.
um is like, some people have theorized that he's white, and some people have theorized that he's black, or some people that have theorized that he's brown,
Mm.
because to fit more of like the moth fit, like, I guess colorization of it. But I feel like
Yeah.
in every version I've seen of Mothman, he always had red eyes, so that's a big distinguishing feature,
Big factor.
big
Yeah.
factor that I don't think anyone can kind of alter, because that's kind of like the whole thing that
Yeah.
it comes from. But yeah, I've seen tons of different versions. I've seen
Do you
some
have
of them
any Oh, go
without
ahead, go ahead.
wings. Yeah, no, I've seen some of them without wings. I've seen
Yeah.
some of them with wings. Some of them are tall, some of them are short. Like, it's just very different. Some of them are buff, some of them aren't. So it's like, I don't know. It's very interesting.
Do you have any favorites?
Um,
Or
I
any
personally just
renditions?
I like the basic black Mothman with red eyes and wings, and then like the crow feet or like the
Yeah.
bird feet. I like that basic like
Yeah.
rendition of Mothman. I think that that's a very fitting thing for Mothman.
Yeah.
Um and most of the sightings have claimed that he is black. So
Yeah.
even if he is brown, like he would probably be dark brown if anything.
Yeah.
But I like just like the plain black,
Yeah.
red eyes, like normal kind
Yeah.
of rendition of him, I guess.
Speaking of which, why don't you show everyone what you got for
Oh
Christmas?
yes, here let me.
Oh, and also, who's that lovely gentleman sitting
yes,
behind you?
we got this. We got this big pit bull.
Bruno.
He's sleeping.
He's sleeping. He's a
He's
baby.
tired. He's really eepy. But
Hi, Bruni.
I have a little Mothman.
Look at
Stuffed
look.
animal. And then they have the little feets. And the coolest
Oh.
part about this is that it has a magnet, so it can close the wings, and you can just like.
Look
So
at
yeah,
how
I very.
freaking incredible that is. Look at that Mothman,
This was just
everyone.
from Spencer's. Like this is a normal thing you could just go and buy at the mall. So
I'm gonna have to link that because
yes,
that's
for
very
sure.
cute.
Yes, it's a great. Oh my gosh, he's starting to fit. So we're
Oh,
just gonna
sorry,
let
Bruno.
him-
We're talking too loud about Mothman.
Yes, he's
Oh,
he's just throwing a fit. It's okay. He'll live. But yeah, that's pretty much
yeah.
that. So yeah, like as back into the pop culture sense of it, it is very big in pop culture now. I feel like
Yeah.
people still recognize Mothman as a big cryptid and kind of the cryptid of all cryptids because it's just such a big thing that people talk about. And like I love all cryptids, so I wouldn't say he's better
course.
than
No.
any other cryptids or compares differently to any other cryptids, but
I think
I
he's a
think that
gateway
he's
for a lot of
he
people.
is the main one that people see first and is like,
Yeah.
oh okay, and then they get into cryptids via Mothman. So
Yeah. He's a great
yeah,
trampoline. to get into that
yes,
world,
definitely.
you know.
So yeah,
So Tal, why
Mhm.
do you think you gravitate towards Mothman so much, and why have you found such a comfort in this creature?
I think I believe in the idea that he is like a safe zone, like a safe person, well, creature more or less, not really person,
Yeah.
to kind of like relate to because he also is like a warning sign for a lot of people. And I think that I've always kind of tried to help people before things get bad and
Mm.
before things get worse. And like I've always tried to help people make sure that um they're happy, and things like that. And I think that's kind of what Mothman is trying to do, but people just really misunderstand him a lot. And I
Yeah.
think I can relate to that too because like I think some people can take my kindness a bit like, oh, like whoa, this is like what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, but it's like I'm just
Mm.
trying to help. Like it's not really that I'm deliberately trying to make anyone's day worse, but
Yeah.
sometimes people see it as me making people's days worse or,
Mm.
things like that. Like everyone has a different perspective of taking kindness and taking
Of course.
um someone's actions differently.
Of course.
So
I
yeah.
think that's beautiful. And yeah, I think it's really big of you to want to open your heart and be there for other people, even if other people don't necessarily understand that or fully comprehend that concept. Um,
Sorry, he's
oh, you're okay.
licking my Mothman, so I don't
Oh,
know what
well,
that's about.
he likes Mothman.
Apparently he likes Mothman.
Thank you,
It's
Bruno.
not- Yes, Bruno, do you want to say hi?
Hi, Bruno.
Want to say hi?
Hi, sweet boy.
You want to say
Hi,
hi?
sweet big boy.
There he is.
Oh, that's my little brother. I love him.
Yeah, he's so sweet. Oh, he's getting up. He's
Oh,
gonna
that's
start
okay.
some. Oh, he
Oh
just
my
hit me.
gosh.
Yeah, he does
He's ready.
that.
He's done.
Yeah, he's like, I want to leave, but it's fine. He can live. But yeah,
But no,
that's
I
basically
think
where
that's
I'm coming
great.
from.
Why do you think Mothman's existence in general is so necessary?
I think that if we're basing it off of the natural disasters that have happened and the tragedies and things like that, I think that if anything, his existence is really important because he kind of warns people. And I
Mm.
think we can kind of use that as like to also like recognize what we're doing more than, because like ultimately the things that have happened kind of come from what we have let happen. Like I'm not directly saying with 9/11. That's not what I'm
Oh
saying, but
no,
more or
no.
less with like the Silver Bridge, if we would have looked at the foundation of the bridge more at the time and
Sure.
maybe more of the weight capacity, maybe that wouldn't have happened, like, or at least like it makes us kind of think of our actions a little bit more,
Mm.
and like how that can affect what happens, because like
Yeah,
ultimately natural disasters and things happen because Mother Earth is reacting to us and
yeah,
what we do to it. So,
I agree.
um,
Okay, so then, is Mothman scary, Tal?
I personally think that he's not scary.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think, like, I don't know. I feel like he can be scary to people because he kind of makes you face like what you kind of see in yourself if you're thinking of it that way, because like I think of him as a very like big cryptid that you can relate to, and I think that that's why people find him scary, because he is someone that is just like trying to help and trying their best to get far in the world.
Aren't we
um
all?
yeah, and that's what I'm saying is it relates back to us as people, and I think that a lot of people view him as very scary. I personally see him as very comforting in a sort of way, and like kind of more in like a safe thing to fall
Yeah.
back on. Safe, something that you can kind of feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Personally, like I feel
Good
like if I met
answer.
Mothman, it would be nice. I feel like it'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on that same note, is Mothman a monster?
um, I believe that he is not. Personally, uh, a lot of people think he is, but honestly, like back to what I was saying before about like what really defines a monster is like kind of looking more at like the reasoning behind what people do.
Yeah.
And I think that Mothman, if we're going based off of just what people have seen and what people have suggested, I think what his main motivation is to help people. And I feel like
Mm.
that's not a monstrous feature or trait. I feel like that's a very caring and considerate kind of thing to do. Like he doesn't need to fly overhead and warn us about stuff. He can just be in his cave or wherever he lives.
Yeah.
The TNT munition site or whatever. He could just be there. But he's not. So I think like people have to really consider that um it's more of like he's just trying to help. It's more of
Yeah.
that compared to him actually causing the natural disasters, him
Yeah.
causing the destructions. Like you have to kind of see past that, because even though something bad did happen, doesn't necessarily mean that it is his fault.
Yeah. Well
So,
said. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so then in general, right? Why is the conversation of monsters so important, and why should monster stories be told? I know you said, I don't know if I view Mothman as a monster, right? But
hmm
having that conversation and exploring what it is to be monstrous, why do you think that is so important?
I think that it's important to tell the stories of cryptids and creatures and monsters and stuff like that. All of the like, to kind of see like what they truly are, more than like just what they have done. Because like even with like if we're going back to like horror movies, like serial killers and stuff, and killers in movies and things like that, they always have a reasoning behind what they do,
Hmm.
and more like and like what they experience as a child or what they experience throughout life, that influences a lot of that. And I think that we can relate to monsters and cryptids and things like that in that sense, because it's like you're kind of focusing more on like like why they're doing it. Like what is the actual drive behind what is going on, like
Yeah.
what you see, like because like even when people act out and when people um do things and say things, like you don't actually know usually what's going on underneath that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big like thing when it comes to
Yeah.
that, and I think that telling those stories are very important because it also gives people something to be interested in. Also, like I think cryptids in itself as a community as a whole, people really love researching stuff like that. People
Yeah.
love looking into it and the origins and what even started all of that. So I think it's really beneficial and important to have that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost similar to like religion in the sense that you have faith in something
Mm.
and you're kind of looking um at something and just putting your faith into it, and like it kind of builds a person to have faith in things
Mm.
like that. So
And
I
in
think it's
yourself.
similar in that, yeah, and in yourself also. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing with that for sure.
Yeah. Great. Well said. Absolutely. I
Thank you.
totally agree. Okay. Last question. And you kind of alluded to this a little bit already, but say
Mhm.
you're just chilling this Saturday, right? Relaxing, having fun with Bruno, watching TV, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden you get a knock on the door. And you're like, who's that? You go to check, and it's Mothman. What the heck would you do? What would you say?
um Honestly, I don't even think Mothman can talk. If we're going based off of the fact that he is a creature,
Sure.
so I would just start being like, "Hey, like, can you understand me? Like, is this where?" Because like, if you can't even talk to the creature right off the bat, I think it'd be really hard to communicate. But if like he could
Sure.
understand me, and he is humanoid, so he does understand or speak English, like
Right.
we do. I think I would just kind of just talk to him if I could, and kind of just be like, so what do you do, what you do, where do you live, like what are you doing most of the time? Like I would want to get to know him pretty
Yeah.
well, and who knows, maybe I'd be friends with him or something. I feel like that'd be cool.
Yeah. Give him a chance
So
to have a place to
yeah,
explain.
yeah,
Like,
because like I don't think he is given that in society's view of him. Like I don't think
yeah.
he's given that rightful like place to explain himself like humans are, because humans
Yeah.
are allowed to explain what they do and explain why they did the things that they've done. Like serial killers can do that,
Mm.
um so can rob people that commit robberies and
Mm.
thieves and things, things like that. And they're always given a place to say something in court, but
Mm.
Mothman isn't. Like Mothman doesn't get that chance. People just have to assume.
Mm.
So I think I'd give him the place to actually do that, because I feel like he isn't really understood that much.
Yeah.
So
And he deserves to be at least understood a little bit.
acknowledge, also just
Yeah.
acknowledge for what he's done, and
Yeah.
like why he's done things he's done.
And what's your workout routine, Mothman? I'm so curious. How do you
Yeah,
have
also
all of these muscles?
apparently according to the internet,
What's your diet consist of?
yeah,
How much
I'm like, what do
protein
you
do you
even eat?
intake?
Yeah, because that's also a big thing, is that Mothman, no one actually knows if he kills people or he kills things. The
No.
movies and the video games speculate that he does, but that's movies and video games, where that's not in real life. So it's like no one really actually knows, like, does he actually eat other insects like moths do, or does he just eat people? Like what does he do? Like what does he actually, does he eat just veggies? Who knows, maybe he just eats leaves, like we don't know.
Maybe it's just vegan protein.
It's just
Maybe
vegan protein.
a lot of pea protein, just
Yeah,
a lot of beans. Like
yeah.
he just that's what it is. That's
And
all.
I'm probably assuming, if people are really theorizing that he's like muscular and like all that, I'm assuming it's from the flying. I mean, flying probably takes a lot out of you if you have wings attached to you. Like,
Yeah, it's a workout. Are you kidding
yeah,
me?
yeah. So I mean, birds can get more strong from
They got
flying,
strong wings.
because yeah, they have strong wings. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I love this idea. I hope you can cook for Mothman one day, Tal.
that would
I
be
really
great.
do.
I
That sounds
really,
fun.
really would love to. Yeah, that would be great.
This episode of Floaties for Krakens was written and recorded by me, Camille Maria Costa. A massive thank you to Natalia Lucero for such a fantastic interview. A big thank you to Michael Kosman for producing a stellar episode, and a huge thank you to Natalie Hedberg for designing such a phenomenal logo. And music for the show was also written and produced by me, with a special appearance by my tata, Toby Acosta. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's show. It truly means everything to me. If you have questions or curiosities about the research or media referenced in this episode, everything will hopefully be in the description box. And you can find us on our website and our socials, links in the descriptions as well. Anyway, thanks again for being here, everyone. And just a reminder, it's okay to be afraid of the monster, but it's also okay to love the heck out of it too. Keep being monstrous and keep shining bright.